What should the Liver King do now? Interesting spot. I think he's interesting. I think the Liver King's an interesting guy. All we ever do is give the Liver King a hard time. I feel there is another side to that. I've watched a lot of his workout routines, and he has a way of speaking that's interesting. I think he does pretty good on camera. I think that that's an actual character. I think that's a viable character. And that's the other side of the coin, is we only want to give him a hard time. But there's more to it, and we were only giving him a hard time for one reason, which is the overuse, right? There's use and abuse. That could be a conversation for another day, of anabolics while denying it. That was the only time anybody gave him a hard time. I think that he comes through on camera. There's nothing wrong within a message of, this is my opinion on what is healthy. And being healthy, and if you listen to my advice, could make your life better. Before we get into any of the facts or of the statements made, that message as a whole doesn't seem like something we give a guy a hard time about. But he's got the anabolics. He was lying about the anabolics, so now he's come out and he has said as much. Fine. I thought it was interesting that he did not apologize as himself, and I think his name's Brian Johnson. It was the Liver King that apologized. It was the Liver King. It was the character. I thought that was interesting. When he had the shirt off and he kept the voice and he stayed in character. I thought that was really interesting. And only time will tell if that was a smart thing or not, but if that character is going to live on, if that character, the Liver King, is going to stay out there, what does he do now? Is it a big deal? I don't know that he ever should have been teased for the anabolics. That was something that he brought onto himself. That was a game that he wanted to play. Okay, fine, we'll play by your rules, but now we're going to play it. Yes, you are. You are on anabolics. So we did this for a period of time. Do we need to dig into the points now? Is that where the Liver King goes? Does the Liver King stay like some kind of a nutritional guru, right? Because then you never know where it ends. I don't think that he eats the things he says he... I don't know. I knew he was on anabolics. I could come and tell you that. I could guarantee he was on anabolics. After that, I can't guarantee it. He may eat that way. I don't think he does. I don't think he's got a deal at the butcher. I don't think he goes down. I just don't think that he puts that kind of time in. I also don't think that it would help you. Those are opinions. Those aren't facts by me. So if you've got the anabolics and you've got a certain look going, and it brought in a level of money, I think you're going to eat food that you enjoy eating. I don't think you're going to be eating testicles and or any kind of a hard-to-get organ, and moreover raw. I can't prove any of that. That's an opinion. I think that the 9 ancestral tenets is something that could be discussed. I don't know why you would want to go back to yesterday. I don't know why you'd want to take living tips from a dead guy. And whenever we start talking about our ancestors, and this is what our ancestors did, I'll tell you another thing that our ancestors did, all of them, is they died. I can tell you with pretty good reason they died at a lot younger age than they would if they were living in today's times. If they had access to technology, if they had access to medication, if they had access to nutrients and foods. These are my opinions. I can't prove these things, but is that what we do now? Right, because that becomes the tough spot with Liver King. Brian did not apologize to you guys. The character apologized. So now the character has to go in a different direction. But what is that direction? The whole thing was about do this to look this way, and that was hid behind anabolics. Is the rest of it true? Are you eating organs and testicle and things like this? I'm not going out of my way to say the word testicles, but there is something funny about that does come to mind. Is he eating raw food? Is he doing any of that? Does he have a butcher that he can get to that's even giving him this food, right? It's not the world's easiest thing to do. And if you're getting it fresh, it seems like you're doing it quite routine. And when you have cameras with you and they're with you at all times and they've never captured that, like it's just one of those things. You were never going to be able to keep the steroids quiet for long because you're getting them somewhere. And that steroid guy, for whatever weird reason, is going to want credit. Somewhere along the way, he's not going to be able to keep his mouth shut. He's going to be getting his money on the supplements, but then he's going to see what you're doing with those supplements. It's just going to get weird. It's really hard to keep those things quiet, right? Like eventually we were going to hear from the steroid supplier, and now we're told that it's from a doctor who's monitoring it. I shared with you, I don't think he's eating the organs. I don't think he's eating raw food. But I'm sharing with you that that's an opinion. I guaranteed you he was on anabolics. I will guarantee you there is not a doctor who is monitoring him and giving him the supplements he takes. He would need multiple doctors that don't know the other ones exist. You'd have to go to this doc and do your blood work and your confidential, and it's between, and then you'd have to go over to this doc just to get enough stuff, right? There's use and there's abuse. He's very clearly on the lines of abuse. People can always factor that in. No, here's my complete blood count. Look at this. Look at what the normal range is. Right? This is game. You guys understand that, right? This is a game. There is a gold standard in the United States for what it takes to qualify to get human growth hormone. That's tightened up many times. But there is a gold standard right now. And that standard is a blood draw that takes place at 8 in the morning. Now, growth hormone is secreted when you sleep. You got it? Do I need to finish the next thought? If you ever need to fail the normalcy test so you can get growth hormone, you don't sleep the night before. You stay up around the clock, then you go do the test. You don't have any growth. Your growth hormone's all sucked down. Do you understand that? There's a game for all of these things, but there is no doctor that is monitoring him who gave him enough supplements to have the results and the effect that he does. He has to have multiple doctors, or the doctor doesn't exist at all and is coming to the black market. I don't care about outing him on this. I mean, it was painfully obvious. And now what I'm asking is does the character, who is the one that apologized to you, does the character continue on with the eating of the raw and very hard to get meats? Or does the character go in a different direction, which is load up, carb load, fat load, sugar load, everything, and then work your ass off and do it twice a day? And here's a couple of workouts that you can do, right? Like nothing for anybody that ever wants to lose weight and or exercise, nothing gets around from here's your shoes, open your front door, come back 40 minutes later. But that's boring, and that can be dull. Or you live in a place like Oregon. Sometimes it's sunny, and most days it's going to rain. And what do I do for when it snows? Like, you got to mix it up. And that's where these different workouts, and that's where these CrossFits and all of these different things to break the monotony, it's where they can be very handy. The Liver King has very unusual and unique workouts. Like, I don't think if you went and did the Liver King's workouts, you would come to the conclusion that it was monotonous and or boring. I think you get a pretty good mix-up. I think you get a pretty good change. I think you could get your heart rate into a number of different zones in a creative fashion. I feel like for the character, there's still a place to go. But is the character who apologized for the anabolic use willing to go a step further, which is set anabolics aside? I also don't eat the way that I'm claiming I eat. Not often, not regularly. I don't make my family do this. I don't have a deal with the butcher. I'm not going back and forth. That's not true. Boy, I got a lot of muscles and I got very limited body fat. And it took a lot of effort. And let's start at the beginning and let me tell you what I really do. Now, this might work for you and it might not. Because the magic wand waved over this whole scenario is not the multiple doctors and the multiple steroids that I take. It's DNA. You might have this and you might not, but let me tell you what I do. Is that a good starting point? Is that a place that the Liver King can go? Is it a place you want him to go? It's very helpful to have somebody that has expertise in that field. And they never start at the right place, right? It's John Cena 101. They will never start with, this is not illegal. This is not against the rules. Athletes gave this legal medicine a bad rap because they used it to cheat, but it's not. And I'm an example. They never want to start there. Is there room for the Liver King too? He's going to have to back up. He's going to have to start from somewhere. This isn't the guy. This is the character. The guy didn't apologize to you. The character apologized to you. Where does the character go now?